Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. This week we're in Parsha Emor. We're in the Leviticus chapters 21 through 24. We've been talking about, throughout the book of Vayikra, talking about relationship, talking about drawing near to Yahweh, talking about sin and uncleanness and the differences between clean, unclean, and holy and common, talking about atonement, all of these things falling in here so far, but we're going to continue a little more about another aspect of this, where Yahweh is asking us to make some distinctions, okay? And we're to know these things because they're going to help us identify the will of Yahweh for our lives. Like when Yeshua came into the world, he says, "I am the light of the world," right? John chapter 1, I am the light of the world. So what did that mean? Other than like the world is dark and he helps show us the way in the dark places, right? But other than like metaphorically speaking, what does it mean? Right? We are learning to discern these things in the scripture, and we're going to get into some of those things today. Okay, so let's kind of jump into it. Leviticus 21:1. So Yahweh says to Moshe, "Speak," that's where we get the word Emor, "speak to the priests and the sons of Aaron, and say to them, no one is to make himself unclean for the dead among his people." Wow. That's pretty intense, because understanding to Aaron and his sons, they were the priesthood that are set apart, and because of the position that they had, they could not be defiled for the dead among their people. Now, there's other midrash and other things we can get into in that. The word that's used there is not met, it's nefesh, which can also mean soulish, not necessarily the word that's normally used for death or dying. So you could also translate this as is not to make himself unclean for the soulish among the people. In other words, those who are not spiritually minded, those who are just carnal in nature, just the ways of the world and all that, not to hang out with those that are like that. Now, I understand, people say, "Oh, but Yeshua did it." No, he didn't hang out with them. He went to them so that he could be a light to them, so that he could help show them the way. He didn't shun them because of who they were or what they were doing, but at the same time, he didn't go party with them either. Okay, so there are differences and differentiations being used there. Okay, so the first use of the word Emor. The word Emor is to say, is back in Bereshit, Genesis 1, verses 3 and 4. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. So, Vayomer Elohim Yehi Or Vahi Or. So again, and said Elohim Yehi Or, light be, light exist. So the very first time this word Emor is used is in a manner of light existing and there being a separation between light and darkness. See, again, Yahweh is speaking to his people, telling them to make a distinction between light and dark, to make a distinction between life and death, which means to also make the distinctions between clean and unclean, and holy and common. The past few portions we've been talking about this, haven't we? That's because as a holy people, it is important. We learn in Leviticus chapter 10, verses 10 and 11, right after the death of Nadav and Avihu, Aaron's two sons, who went and brought strange fire before Yahweh, and they died. Yahweh spoke to Aaron directly, and he says, "You are to distinguish between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean. And you are to teach the people of Israel all the statutes that Yahweh has spoken to them by Moses." So one of the jobs of the high priest was to teach the people of Israel the differences between clean and clean and holy and common, and all that Yahweh has spoke to Moshe. The job of the high priest was to teach and instruct the people as well. We see in Ezekiel 22:26, where it says, "The priests have done violence to my law and have profaned my holy things." How did they bring violence to the law and profane the holy things? Well, first off, how do you bring violence to it? How do you profane it? You just don't guard it. You just don't protect it. And we find that's what happened. Because I said they made no distinction between the holy and the common, and they have not taught the difference between the unclean and the clean. And they have disregarded my Shabbat, so that I am profaned among them. See that? All of these things we talked about in last week's portion. See, the differences between clean and holy, common, and Shabbat. All of these things do go together. John 8:12, Yeshua says, "I am the light of the world." The one who follows me will no longer walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Again, Yeshua says, I am the light of the world. So we need to know what that means. He came to show us light. As the light, it makes a separation between the light and the darkness. And so that we walk in light. Matthew 5:14-19, again, going a little more into that. You are the light of the world. See that? Yeshua says, I am the light of the world, but then he tells his disciples, you are the light of the world. Meaning, you are to go out and show the light, be that light that was in Yeshua, his presence, the presence of Yahweh, in you, go into the world, show the light, and make the distinctions that he's told you to make to help separate people from the darkness so that they can be in the light. And he says, a city that's set on a hill cannot be hidden. You cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they put it on a lampstand so it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men so they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. See that? So let your light shine before men so they'll see what you do and glorify Yahweh. So how do we do that? The very next verse. Do not think I have come to abolish the Torah of the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. To fulfill means to fill them full. The Hebrew word related to that Greek word is asa, which means to do. And he says, I tell you, till heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or seraph shall ever pass away from the Torah till all things come to pass. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teach others to do the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps and teaches them, this one shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So again, the instructions we receive from Yahweh are teaching us how to live, how to learn to discern, and how to live in a way that people will look at things that you do to glorify Yahweh because of your life. See that? You're doing what Yahweh is telling you to do by doing his word, and people are glorifying Yahweh because they see him in you. Why? Because you're doing his word. His word is in you and operating through you, and that's changing how you live and how you do things. In other words, you represent a king and a kingdom. Because you represent a king and a kingdom, you need to be aware you do not live for yourself. You live for your king. You live for your kingdom. Leviticus 11:44-45 says, I am Yahweh your God. Consecrate yourselves, therefore, and be holy, for I am holy. You shall not defile yourselves with swarming things that crawls on the ground, for I am Yahweh who brought you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. Leviticus 19:1-2. Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to all the congregation of the people of Israel and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, Yahweh your God, am holy. Leviticus 20:7-8. Consecrate yourselves, therefore, and be holy, for I am Yahweh your God. Keep my statutes and do them, for I am Yahweh who sanctifies you. See that? I am Yahweh who sanctifies you, and because of that, you keep my statutes and do them. Leviticus 21:6. They shall be, excuse me. Leviticus 21:6. They shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, for they offer Yahweh's food offerings, the bread of their God. Therefore they shall be holy. So again, being set apart, and people will watch you, and you represent Yahweh to the people. So they're watching you, right? As that, you're to be holy, and that means you're set apart. So we live your life as set apart. 2 Corinthians 6:16-18 references that as well, which, by the way, it's quoting from Isaiah 52:11, by the way. Okay? So it says, what agreement does God's temple have with idols? For we are the temple of the living God. Just as God said, I will dwell in them, walk among them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Therefore, so because you are a place for Yahweh to dwell, right? Therefore, come out from among them and be separate, says Adonai. Touch no unclean thing, and I will take you in. And I will be a father to you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, says Adonai Tzevaot. Because you are a temple for his presence, you be aware of the unclean and avoid it. See that? He's not saying because you are a temple of Yahweh's presence, the clean, unclean, holy, and common doesn't matter anymore. He's saying because you are a place for Yahweh to dwell, come out from among them and do not be unclean. So, It's important to note, as a holy people, we are to live as a holy people, right? This was relevant, this will be relevant, and this is relevant now. Let's look in Revelation. Revelation 21:27. Nothing unclean will enter it. Speaking of the New Jerusalem, right? Nor anyone who does what is detestable or false, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. 1 Thessalonians 4:7 says, God did not call us to live an unclean life, but a holy one. See that? So how do we know how to not live an unclean life? You have to know what unclean is. And that doesn't mean you go around studying all the unclean. It means you go through the scriptures, and the scriptures tell you how to follow Yahweh, how to live for him. That is teaching us what is clean. And in the process of doing that, also teaches us unclean. If you're always just studying the unclean, in other words, just studying the falsehood, there's always going to be more falsehood, and you're never learning the truth. You're never learning the clean. You're never learning the holy. Okay, so be careful of your focus in that. A lot of times people go down the rabbit holes of just studying all the falsehood, and that's all they ever learn is all the falsehood, and they never really get to study the actual truth. Learn what it means to be holy. Learn what it means to be set apart, and not spending all your time about all the unclean that's around you. If you learn what's clean, you're going to know what's unclean, right? So holy is the central theme of Vayikra. You know, a holy people, holy God, holy time, holy space. But the focus in here shifts from what Yahweh does to what we do. See, this is what Yahweh does, and then at a point it kind of shifts into what we do because of our relationship with him. We prepare a place for him to dwell. We make the effort to spend time with him. See, he is who he is with or without us. Okay? If we serve him or not, he is Yahweh. But wouldn't you rather be involved in that relationship? Okay? So we do have to submit ourselves to that. 1 Peter 1:16-22 says, it is written, Kedoshim you shall be, for I am Kadosh. If you call on him as Father, the one who judges impartially according to each one's deeds, then live out the time of sojourning in reverent fear. You know that you were redeemed from the feudal way of life handed down from your ancestors, not with perishable things such as silver or gold, but with the precious blood like that of a lamb without defect or spot, the blood of Messiah. He was chosen before the foundation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. Through him, you are believers in God, who raised him from the dead, gave him glory, so that your trust and hope are in God. Now that you have purified your souls in obedience to the truth, leading to sincere brotherly love, love one another fervently from a pure heart. And so, again, be clean, be holy. All this is because of what Messiah Yeshua has done for us to bring us into that relationship, right? Zechariah 13:1 talks of that as well. It says, in that day a spring will be opened to the house of David, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, to cleanse them from sin and impurity. We've talked about that past few parsha as well, right? So Yahweh is holy. And you, as his people, are holy. Because of this, we seek his desires first and foremost. Why? So that his name is glorified. Like we already read in Matthew 5, verses 14-19, right? We seek his desires first. We do what he desires first so that his name is glorified. So people who are watching you anyway will see your actions and glorify the one that you serve. Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. So what does it mean to seek his righteousness? Like we said recently here, to seek his righteousness means to do what he is asking you to do, to walk with him in his ways. Revelation 19:7-8 says, let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife has made herself ready. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white. Now look at this. For fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. Okay, so what does it mean that the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints? Now, we talked about many things before, how the white is purity, the white is supposed to symbolize being washed and being made clean. The plain white linen garments like the priesthood wears to symbolize just being set apart, being holy, just nothing really fancy, just the plain white linen garments. He washes us, he makes us clean, he does all that. But check this out. In Revelation 19:8, where it says that the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints, and so they are clothed in righteousness, right? What is the righteousness? Dikaioma is the Greek word that's used there. Now, the LXX related words, the Septuagint related words that are used for that can be mitzvah, chok, derech, zedekah, mishpat, pikudim. But check this out. It says most often, very often, it's used for mitzvah, mishpat, chok, and hukah. What are these words? These words, so it talks about that this is righteousness. Righteousness, well, mitzvah is commands. Mishpat are judgments. Chok are customs and statutes. Guys, it says we are clothed in righteousness when we are clothed in his mitzvahs, his mitzvot. We are clothed in his mishpatim. We are clothed in his word that he is asking us to do. Deuteronomy 30, verses 15 and 16 says, I have set before you this day life and good, death and evil, and that I command you this day to love Yahweh your God, walk in his ways, keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that you may live and multiply, and Yahweh your God will bless you in the land wherever you go to possess it. So in other words, we are walking in his righteousness when we are walking in his word, and this is what he is going to clothe you in. Continuing on, Thayer's Greek lexicon defines this. That which has been deemed right so as to have the force of law. In other words, what has been established and ordained by law. Righteousness, according to Thayer's Greek lexicon, is that which is established and ordained by law to have the force of law. Universally, as an appointment of God, having the force of law, like Romans 1:32 says. And it's plural, used of the divine precepts of the Mosaic law. So in its plural form, it's used according to the law of Moses. Public worship. Many different things involved in that. We're coming in to worship him and to honor him and to walk in his word and walk in his ways, and he clothes us in that. When we're learning to walk in his righteousness, we're walking according to his word. You're a holy people. You are holy because Yeshua made a way for you to be forgiven, cleansed, and made clean, atoned for. And guys, he became unclean to take your blame. And we see this as well in Isaiah 53. We see this in like the Yom Kippur service, like those who were involved in the process, like the goat that went away. Everyone who was involved in the process of this became unclean. And the process of the red heifer, everyone involved in the making of the red heifer and the ceremony of the red heifer, everyone involved in that became unclean. But yet the ashes of the red heifer were used to purify and to cleanse. So in other words, Yeshua became unclean so that he could take your uncleanness and make you clean, so that he could bear your sin and your uncleanness and cleanse you, because you are holy and you are to walk with him in that way. Leviticus 16:20-22 says, and when he has made an end of atoning for the holy place and the tent of meeting, the altar, he shall present the live goat. And Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the iniquities of the people of Israel and all the transgressions, all their sins. And he shall put them on the head of the goat and send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a man who is in readiness. And the goat shall bear all their iniquities on itself to a remote area. He shall set the goat free in the wilderness. In Isaiah 53, again, all of this is saying, learning to make the distinctions, guys, learning what he did for us, making the distinctions between clean and clean, holy, common, light, dark, life, death, all of these, making distinctions in here. Isaiah 53, verses 3-5, he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his stripes we are healed. And then in 2 Corinthians 7:1, therefore, since we have these promises, loved ones, let us cleanse ourselves from all defilement of body and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. Learn to make these distinctions. Go through the scripture and seek how it's to change you. We're not just reading a history book. We're reading about the heart of the Father to his people. Don't make yourself defiled for anyone. Don't make yourself unclean for those around you. Be set apart. In other words, be a light to those around you. It doesn't mean you have to be degrading to those around you or you have to mistreat those around you. Be compassionate, but be the light. Show life. Be the way that Yahweh has called us to be. Let people see the heart of Yahweh in you and glorify him and want to be drawn into the kingdom because of you. Live your life for Yahweh as he has called you to live. Be that example. Be that hope that someone is looking for. Because he lives in you. Because Yahweh lives in you, he wants you to live a better way. And he wants you to help others live that way as well. Yeshua said he was the light of the world. But he also said that you are the light to the world. Be that light and help show there is a better way. May it all be in Yeshua's name. Okay. Well, guys, that's all I have for you today. I pray this has been a blessing to you, encouraged you, challenged you as well. And if it has been a blessing to you, then please share it. Whatever avenue you watch or you listen to these videos, please share them, help get them out there. If it's been a blessing to you, it's going to bless somebody else too, right? So help share it, help get it out there. And if this has been a blessing to you, then please consider making a donation to help us continue putting these videos out there, okay? Again, everything that we do does cost us something, and so we can only do this because you help us make it happen. And so we praise Yahweh for you, that it is your heart to do that, okay? And help sharing, help with your prayers and your support, because it helps get the word out there to others, especially World Wide Web nowadays, guys. It helps put it out there where someone may not come across it any other way. So it does help. All right. So with all that, guys, thank you and be blessed. And until next time, be a blessing. Shalom.